Matt, how we doing tonight, my man?
Khari Demos, the one, the only. I'm feeling good. Trying to cram as much summer into the weekend as possible. We are I'd say about probably 1 week away from week one action, Thursday night football or
Hmm.
whatever.
Yes,
And
sir.
we are talking about the AFC North offensive lines. And I'm just happy to be here. How are you doing?
Good, man. I'm good. It's exciting. Got Colorado and North Dakota State playing in the background. So it's week one of college football because week zero last week. Getting prepared for, like you said, the start of the NFL regular season. Really in the thick of things in my own high school football season as well with coaching. So, really just excited to get the the fall underway. Love summertime for sure. A lot of freedom and fun, but nothing like the fall. So really excited to get to it. And like you said, really looking forward to talking about the AFC North offensive lines and the AFC North. You know, for years on end, everybody calls it the black and blue division. And it's a division that's really won and lost inside the trenches. From the run that the Baltimore Ravens have had in the last few years to Pittsburgh Steelers in their heyday with Ben Roethlisberger to even the just talking about the Browns and what they've been able to do with their running game up front in the last few years as well. So we're going to be diving into all four of those squads. Roaming the Midwest there and the AFC North. We're going to start out with just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about tonight with these guys. So here are the rankings as far as where each team in the division ranks as far as overall, as according to Matt's offensive line uh, chart and he's put together a very detailed system to be able to really value and weigh out how each offensive line throughout the league stacks up. So just for perspective here, at the top we've got Cleveland, fourth overall in run and 11th in the pass. So pretty solid in both areas there, but not too far behind the Cincinnati at eighth, breaking ninth in the run. 19th in the past, not the best there. So I think that's something that's we'll have to talk about, as far as being a concern for the guys protecting Joe Shiesty. Next, we've got Baltimore, 16th overall, 7th in the run. We know what they're going to do in the run game. 15th in the pass, a little bit more average. So we'll see. We'll decipher through that, some of the changes that they've had up front. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers almost rounding things out at 30th overall, 18th in the line, 23rd in the pass. So just that's actually the squad we're going to start with first here. Is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So just pulling up their offensive line depth chart right now. Right left tackle we've got Broderick Jones. At left guard Isaac Siomalu, Zach Frazier handling the pivot, the second round pick there, as well as James Daniels at right guard. This is his second season, I believe, now in Pittsburgh, as well as rookie Troy Fautino. So clearly, the Steelers wanted to make sure that they addressed this. It's been a very apparent issue in the last few years for Pittsburgh with the offensive line, and to be able to add three offensive linemen within the team's first four picks in the draft this year. I mean, I'm sorry, within the first four rounds of the draft this year, was, they made a statement as to, hey, we need to be able to improve things up front. Obviously things didn't work out with Kenny Pickett, and Najee Harris has had ups and downs throughout his career. But it really, I think, boils down to what has that offensive line been able to put together. I'm excited to see what Troy Fautino can do. I was more of a fan of him potentially playing guard rather than tackle. I know he has the athletic traits to be, very sturdy as far as as a tackle, but personally, I just feel like with the arm length and things of that nature, I think that he would be better suited to play guard in the NFL. But hey, I don't get paid to coach offensive line in the NFL, so it's not my call there. But I think that this is a group to me that I'm really intrigued by. I think they are at a unique point because as much as Pittsburgh's offensive line is, bottom three right now as far as overall lines in the league. I believe that this is a group that can really grow. They've got three, like I said, three rookie offensive linemen, two in the starting lineup already, and one that almost assuredly will be one of their top, reserves in Mason McCormick. But again, you have a veteran like Isaac Suamalu. You have a veteran like James Daniels, coming over from Chicago. Broderick Jones, he had some ups and downs, throughout the preseason, but, had a pretty solid rookie campaign as well. So I think, to know that this group is where it is now is one thing. I think to think about this group, you have to consider, okay, yes, this is today. Let's think about tomorrow. So, Matt, I'll let you take it away from there.
Yeah, I mean, you made a lot of good points. It certainly has a reputation for being a tough division for the offensive line historically and to this day. I mean, we're talking about the Steelers and they're close to the bottom of the rankings. That's just a function of how much change there's been in the lineup. We're just going to jump into the film. I really like Zach Frazier at center. I mean, he throws his body around, and I'm going to show a couple clips here. It was a real joy to watch. This is him in the middle. That's Suamalo. This is the first team. I think Broderick Jones is at right tackle because Troy Fautanu is hurt at this point. But and Dan Moore is at left tackle. I think if everyone was healthy, Jones would actually be on the bench, but he's more comfortable at right tackle than left tackle. But this is more about Frazier and the job he does in the middle. This is just a really good pocket. These guys do a good job up front. I like looking at James Daniels at the end. Look for work at the end. He comes over and helps Suamalu. I just think it's a good interior three. They're ranked 30th, but I'd say they're underrated. I think they're going to go up in the rankings pretty fast as long as they stay healthy. And there's a lot to like about the center prospect. I'm going to show one more clip real quick, and then I'll get your feedback on this one. This one is more of a run blocking situation. And you're really going to have to watch the reach block that 54 puts here on 94 and just blows it wide open. I mean, we'll show it again. And this is a hard block to make, to snap the ball, and the footwork is outstanding for him to make this reach. It frees up Suamalo to blow out the safety. And as you can see, it's a successful play for the Steelers offense. And I don't think they're going against the Lions first team by any means, but you can only block the people who you're up against. And if you look, you see 77 kind of limping around, looking for work. I don't really like Broderick Jones in this offense right now. I think they're going to get him on the bench as soon as possible. And I think Dan Moore's beating him out for left tackle. He does just enough to get by in his work, but that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of good stuff from that center. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the Pouncey brothers, Mike and Marquise Pouncey, and I don't think the Steelers have really had a dominating center since that era, and I'm seeing a little bit of that. And I would like to see, those are the two clips I found, and I would love to get your response.
Yeah, for sure. I think Frazier really was able to do a great job of torquing those guys. I always try to say when it comes to technique and especially on outside zone, but generally when it comes to blocking, you know the lane that the running backs are supposed to follow, right? You just have to be able to get in those guys' way, being able to root them out, and to be able to move his feet the way he did, to be able to, get that guy off his path as well. We know the type of offense that Arthur Smith wants to run. He's trying to pound the rock. He's got a stable of backs. Obviously, that was Cordell Patterson there, but Najee Harris, Jalen Warren as well. He's trying to feed those guys out of the backfield. So this offensive line capabilities are are going to be a major piece of if this team is able to succeed this year. That we could say that about any team, but I think especially with a team like Pittsburgh, who is trying to pound the rock, who is trying to have a more balanced attack. Obviously, just naming Russell Wilson as the starting quarterback, they're looking to protect a guy who is getting up there in age and isn't necessarily as mobile as he once was. So I think being able to have a young nucleus sticking together, working together, coming up, it'll be interesting to see if Broderick Jones is shifted to the bench. I know he's got a lot of skills and a lot of gifts, but that doesn't necessarily always mean results. We talked a lot about that with Mekhi Becton, right? All the talent in the world, but not being able to put that together, that talent is useless at that point. So I'll be interested to see how Pittsburgh's offensive line looks, come week 17, week 18. This may be an offensive line that we look to as maybe the most improved throughout the league. Oh, man, I think you're muted. Hold on.
Sorry, that was me.
No worries.
Sorry, that was me muted. I was going to say, I hear a lot from fans. Why is my team ranked so low? And it's not personal. It's just a matter of when you change that much lineup, it makes a difference. We want to see cohesion, but there is definitely a scenario where a month or two goes by and this team is ranked in the 15, 16 area, which is exactly where we're going to be for our next team, the Baltimore Ravens. We're going in reverse order. For those of us who watch the show, we're going in worst to first. So the Ravens are at 16 overall. They're really strong at run blocking. They have a lot of change. So I'm just going to jump right into the film. This is against the Packers at Lambeau. We're looking at a left side of Daniel Falele and Roger Rosengarten. Oh, I'll let that loop. I'm sorry, because there's a lot to look there. Number 72 is also a new player, Andrew Voorhees, but the other starters are not there. Tyler Lindenbaum is not there, and neither is Ronnie Stanley. That's Josh Jones, and I forget who the 61 is, but I put a little X there to show you what a poor job he did when 77 absolutely buries his man, just buries this guy at the point of attack. And if 61 makes even a decent block, and I also think there's something to be said for the running back. I think there's openings on the left side. I mean, just a huge hole behind Voorhees and Josh Jones. It seems like he ran right into the arms of the defender, which is a sort of an example where the blocking goes well, but I think a lot of running backs in the league would be able to make hay out of this blocking setup for possibly a very big gain. And this is what you're seeing. You're seeing Falele at 77. He's almost 400 pounds. I mean, one of the biggest players in the league, if not the biggest listed player in the league. Rosengarten is at 70. He's actually pretty technical, as you can see, pretty good with feet. I think they're going to rotate men in. I think Ben Cleveland is going to rotate in, possibly with Voorhees, and I think Patrick McCarry will rotate in with Roger Rosengarten. And the Ravens and other sort of contending teams are content to rotate guys in when they're lesser starters. They're not going to rotate in, Tyler Lindenbaum, but they will rotate in other starters. And I thought this is a good example of the kind of mauling running game that we can expect out of the Ravens this year. I've got one more clip out of the Daniel Falele show right here. I believe this is a pass set, if memory serves. Yeah, I just felt like they did a good job bunching everybody up. 72 Voorhees gets peeled off a little bit, but it's not really his fault. He ends up on the ground. When I look at film, I like to see who ends up on the ground, and I think, oh, that's a bad job. But honestly, he just gets wiped out by the D end, and it's not necessarily his fault. But on the right side, I just thought the guys did a good job of bunching everybody inside. That's Josh Johnson. That's not Lamar Jackson. But could you imagine Lamar back there with this kind of time? Again, a mixed group of starters and backups on the defensive side. But look at all that room, guys running open. I mean, pretty exciting if it works out. This is a high variance line. I wrote an article this week called Boom or Bust O lines, and this is one of them. This line could be very good. It could be very not good if the new guys don't succeed. And before I turn it over to you, let me quickly say our heart goes out to the family of Joe D'Alessandris. We were here talking about him last week as going to the hospital. He did not make it out of the hospital. He passed away. It's very sad. Hug your loved ones. There's certain things that are more important in football. This sort of thing, this sort of event, it'll galvanize a locker room, and the guys will play hard for Joe D, and they're going to dedicate their season to him, and there's going to be a certain amount of edge on that, but also, like, you can't replace that level of expertise. So there'll be pros and cons with that, but that's the spiel on the Ravens. I think there's a lot of upside there, especially with the league schedule giving them a lot of rest. But they have so much change. They're replacing 3 starters. What do you think?
Yeah. First and foremost, like you said, RIP to Joe D. Really just an awful situation, and I also think, like you mentioned too, I think just to consider the fact that this isn't a group that had a little bit of turnover, and a group that has been successful in recent years. So to face that much turnover, then compounding that with the actual loss of Joe D'Alessandro, I just think it's something to watch. I think this is a unit that, like you said, has guys that maybe you're getting rotated in. You talked a little bit about you were asking about the center there. That was seventh round rookie Nick Samak that was in for Tyler Linderbaum there. But talking about Daniel Falele, talking about Roger Rosengarten, talking about Patrick McCarry, Josh Jones, who is a draft pick out of Houston for the Arizona Cardinals, and Ben Cleveland. And so I think there's a lot of different guys that can get in the mix and get on the field for the Ravens here. But also too, I think, the beautiful thing about this unit, combined with the fact that Todd Monken and this offense, his system that he's had in place, and the tight ends that they have, Patrick Ricard as well, they have a unit that, yes, wherever this unit level of play is at, will help them elevate or possibly plummet, throughout the season. However, they're not going to be doing it alone. They're going to be, 12 personnel. They're going to be they're going to present a much heavier look, quote unquote, than most offenses do in the league. So as much as, yes, it's about this offensive line, there's a lot, there's going to be a lot of other contributing factors to what this unit can be this season as well. So I'm excited to see it. I'm a huge fan of Lamar Jackson, and I think him and Derrick Henry playing together is going to be absolutely insane. If they don't rush for 3,000 yards as a team, I think it's a travesty. But I also think that it's going to be interesting to watch how this offensive line gels throughout the season. I think Falele, to me, is probably the biggest wild card. Obviously a guy that size, that's massive, roughly 400 pounds. I mean, in the clips you showed, I love the way he moved. He does look trimmer. He looks like he's in good shape right now. I just hope he's able to continue that on throughout the season. Because if he's able to, guys, clear road grader, but he has shown that he's able to move his feet in the run or in the pass game as well. Able to protect. And listen, Obviously, pass protection is important with any quarterback, but it's nice to know that if things break down, you have probably the most athletic quarterback to ever do it behind you as well. So I do think this is very similar to the Steelers. I think the Ravens are a unit that, the floor may be a little bit lower than anticipated or what you would like, but I think the ceiling is fairly high. Just considering the fact that, there's so much depth with this group, and not just depth from the perspective of, oh, they've got, a lot of different guys that they know that they're going to play. They've got a lot of different guys who have played and guys who've had fairly decent success. Granted, some of these guys have been jettisoned from other locations. I think just being able to bring these guys into this group and being a part of this system could really bring an uptick in their play.
Yeah, I mean, I have the Steelers as underrated. I have the Ravens as boomer busts. And these next two teams, I'm just going to bring this up so I can remind everybody, the Bengals and the Browns, I have them as possibly being overrated. But for now, the model shows them as top 10 teams. And we're going to show you right now with the Bengals why that's the case. So this is earlier in the preseason. This is Joe Burrow and the first team offense. I believe Amarius Mims is at right tackle for this. This is I thought this was a very creative kind of blocking scheme. They roll out Burrow to his right. They take the left guard and they put him in motion, kind of like it's going to be a counter. He picks up that blitzer. I mean, I like this clip as well because it's blitzing defensive backs. The back does an amazing job coming across and getting that pass protection, and he's back there and he can just fling it, and I don't think this play I don't think the receiver came down with this, but creative blocking scheme, creative motion, everybody's doing their job. Orlando Brown 75 does a great job in pass protection. Just like looking with head on a swivel, looking for work. I mean, 64 takes a bop to the head. It's just this clip has everything. It's got everything you're gonna want. And I think if Joe, if you have a guy like Joe Burrow back there, he's getting this kind of time and protection. Again, not the first team, but you like to see it. So that's the first clip. The second clip, again, this is from a couple weeks ago because the starters did not play for the last 2 weeks. They put everybody into a bubble wrap. This is the touchdown from early in the first quarter of that game, but you just see like a really good pocket, a really strong set from Orlando Brown. Burrow gets rid of it fast. That really makes life easier for the line. I mean, these guys aren't ranked the highest in pass protection, but if the quarterback gets rid of it fast, and this is another blitz, by the way. I think they bring 5 or 6, and they do a pretty good job picking it up. I think that's 6. So I like these two clips because it showed it was preseason, but they didn't care. They were blitzing like crazy. They had 6 and maybe a 7th spy coming through, and when you blitz that many, that leaves Chase on the outside and one-on-one, and bad things can happen when you're one-on-one with that much space with a player like Jamar Chase. So that's the two clips I found. Again, there wasn't much to look at the last couple games, but I think they're a pretty good group, this Bengals. Right now, Mims is hurt and Trent Brown is playing, and Trent Brown's going to be plenty motivated for that matchup against New England in the season opener, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts on what you saw out there as a coach, as a fan. What did you see?
Yeah. I think it's been a narrative around this offensive line, ever since really since Joe Burrow's rookie year. Oh man, they got to pick it up front. Even the year they went to the Super Bowl, it's like, man, it's like they got there in spite of that offensive line. And I think they've really invested and made sure that they've added assets up front to make sure that a situation like last season where Joe Burrow gets injured, with the wrist injury, that those situations don't take place moving forward. I think the big thing that stands out to me about this group is continuity. You have they added Orlando Brown last season, and was able to be a stalwart, a left tackle for them, and he's personally one of my favorite left tackles because I just remember the narrative around him when he first was coming into the league. Didn't have the greatest combine performance in the world, but has been a Pro Bowl player, has been Super Bowl champion now in his career. So I think he needs to get a little bit more respect than people who wanted to jump on him when he first came into the game. But then also too, you've got vets like Ted Harris there, a vet like Alex Kappa. Having two guys like that are so viable in the middle, I think is essential. I think also too, considering the fact that Marius Mims is looking like a pretty high level or a plus first round pick. He looks like he can truly develop into potentially a Pro Bowl level player for them. Hopefully he's able to get on the mend with his health as well. But I actually just saw today that he is doing some work on the sidelines. I know it can be a little weird when it comes to injuries in the preseason. Like you said, keeping guys in bubble wrap until the regular season. But yeah, so I think that that continuity, it really stands out. But also too, I think just considering some of the depth, to have a as massive of a human as Marius Mims is to have him deal with injuries and bring in even more massive human in Trent Brown, right? A guy that is, yeah, he's well traveled, vet, obviously spent time in New England, spent time in Vegas. I think he's a guy that at this point in his career, starting 17 games is probably not the best situation, but when you need him to start in a pinch, when you need him to be, your swing tackle, at left or right, he's shown he's been able to play both throughout his career. So I think that was a great insurance policy to be able to bring a vet like that in, but also too considering the fact that you do have a young guy in Marius Mims that he's working with. But I say all this to say I think I'm really intrigued to see what Cincy's offensive line looks like this season and what their offense overall looks like this season because this is a team that fully loaded, when they are all systems go, the sky is really the limit for them. I think this is one of the best offenses in the league, and I'll be interested to see how they're able to move guys to keep to provide lanes for Chase Brown and Zach Moss. And again, when you've got Joe Shiesty back there throwing the pill to Jamar Chase to T. Higgins, now you got the rookie Jermaine Burton. I think being able to have a crew like that, it takes that much more pressure off of an offensive line like that, especially knowing that this is a pretty West Coast based system that Zach Taylor is employing here. So I'll be interested to see how they're able to keep those guys clean up front, but also too, if they're able to do so, this very easily could be a top 5 to 10 offense in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. I don't want to move. I want to talk about the Bengals real quick. You said a lot of very interesting things there regarding Orlando Brown not getting enough respect, like Rodney Dangerfield. I mean, it's a little bit like sins of the father. I'm old enough to remember Zeus Brown getting hit in the eye with a flag, and he got a scratched cornea, and he pushed a referee. And there's people in the NFL have long memories, and that could be part of it. You know what I mean? And especially with the combine performance, this idea of, well, blah, blah, blah. And it's really, scouts are like washwomen. They just gossip. And like, he is underrated. He's good in the pass. He's better than you'd think in the pass, and he's great in the run. You know, a guy like that's like a house. It's like running around your house. Like try to run around from your garage to your shed. That's like running around the corner on a guy like Brown. So he does deserve higher speed. He definitely gets the money, and that's the most respect you can get. He gets the bag. Marius Mims, what a physical specimen coming out of Georgia, but there was always injury issues there, and now he has a pectoral injury, which is going to limit his availability for the start of the season. I wanted to, before we move on to the Bengals, I wanted to ask you and put you on the spot as a Bills fan, Khari, Cody Ford. Is he a valuable depth piece as a guard? Can he step in at right tackle if Trent Brown goes down in week 1 and Mims isn't available? I felt like he was a good prospect coming out, but it didn't quite work out for him as a starter in Buffalo. What do you think his role is in this offense? And then we'll go on to the Cleveland Browns.
For sure. Taking all the things in Cody Ford's personal life out of the question and out of the mix in this question here. He I also was a huge fan of him coming out of Oklahoma. We've talked about it a little bit, like not necessarily recruiting the helmet. I think it's a little different when you talk about offensive line because it's much more of a cohesive piece as to like, hey, these guys had to work together and they came in together as a group and they succeeded as a group. So Oklahoma offensive linemen have always stood out to me. Lane Johnson, Trent Williams. So like guys like Cody Ford, I kept an eye on, and I felt like he was one of those unique mixes of big, athletic, nasty. Maybe we try him at tackle first. If it doesn't work out there, shift him in the guard, right? And that was what I thought was going to be his plan, or the plan for him, with the Bills. But like you said, it didn't work out. Spencer Brown ended up coming in and being a guy that has been a viable starter. Then you talk about even at right guard now, Osiris Torrance being the guy there. So I think that with Cody Ford, I think he is a guy that can be good in spots. I think he in a depth role as a reserve player can be valuable just because he does have that flexibility to play guard or tackle. But again, I don't think you want to necessarily be looking to him in a long-term scenario. If Amarius Mims is placed on the PUP list, if he's put on IR, if Trent Brown, like you says, goes down as well, I don't think it would be advantageous for Cleveland to, not Cleveland, Cincy to be looking to him fully as their starter moving forward. But he's a guy I do think in spots could be serviceable. But question is, how long do you need him out there for?
Very interesting. I will keep an eye on that from week to week to see if he gets into the lineup. We have one more team in the AFC, the highest ranked team in the middle there, the Cleveland Browns at 6 overall, 4th in the running game, and 11th in the pass. Just a franchise with a lot of controversy lately from the quarterback, all the different players. Right now they have some injury issues up front. I'm just going to jump into this clip. Right now we are looking at the right side of Wyatt Teller, 77, and 79, DeJuan Jones. Look at 77 just plow into that guy's side. I mean, this has got to hurt. So this is the first team minus Jedrick Wills at left tackle and minus Joel Bitonio at left guard. They are just shoving people around, though. I mean, just a good pocket. I really love the job 77 does here. Boom. I mean, that hurts, man. That's going to be a little trip to the ice tub for that player, preseason or no. That one will leave a mark. So I just feel like they are a good line up front. I think that is the starting center, Ethan Pochik. I don't know if you say Posick. I'm really
Yep.
poor at
Oh yeah,
pronunciation. But so you got 3/5 of the starting line. I think you got DTR back there, and just a big wide
that's
pocket
Jabba
and
Wins
line.
back there.
Oh, is that it's
That's
Winston?
Jabba
It's
Wins.
James Winston. Yes, good point. Look at the very end of this 65. The left tackle shoved somebody at the end. Oh,
Oh yeah.
that where was number 70. I don't know exactly who that is, but not the starting guard, but just a fundamental like viciousness across the board. Bang bang. Ball's been gone 2 seconds. Take a little bit of extra medicine. Just that's what I like to see, and that's why they're in the top 5 with half of their line gone. Now they do have Jedrick Wills kind of hurt, and they have Jack Conklin's still coming back from a knee injury that was very severe. Jack Conklin was in a interview I think today or yesterday talking about how he tore his ACL, his PCL, his MCL, everything that could be torn in a knee. That guy tore it, but he's still back, and he's I don't know that he'll start over Jones. Jones is an ascending player. Conklin is kind of at the end of his ride here. Again, this is the last clip of the night. This is that right side. Look how good Jones does making a set. I mean, it's not perfect, but he's another kind of player I think is hard to get around. You know, 77 as well. Does a good job inside burying this guy. I mean, it's just I almost feel bad for the defenders sometimes going against players that truly relish the violence of it. I don't think this is first team again, but it is. I mean, it's not the first team Seahawks, but it is most of the first team Cleveland O line, and that's what we're looking at. I think Deshaun Watson restructured his contract today. That's another player that is kind of obviously, controversial and personal level, very problematic. But I don't think he forgot how to play football, and I don't think that contract is as bad as everybody likes to make it out to be. He's still under 30. He's got a lot of rust on him, but behind that O line, I think you can get a lot done. The last thing I'll say before I pass it over to you is Bill Callahan has left this coaching staff and gone to Tennessee. So I think there's fair to expect kind of a drop off in the coaching perspective. But overall, they're at 5. I don't think they're going to get any higher, or 4. I don't think they're going to get any higher, but they could drop if things don't pan out for them. So what did you see there, Khari, and what did you think?
Yeah, I've got very mixed feelings about their offensive line. I do think they've got a unit that, again, just talking about the continuity, right? Joe Bitonio and Wyatt Teller. I mean, those are two that may be the best guard tandem in the league. Realistically thinking about it, Joe Bitonio and Wyatt Teller, both Pro Bowl, All Pro type players. It pains me to say that about Wyatt Teller, as the Bills let him go a few years ago. Really
there was a trade there. It was a trade.
Oh man, I think they let him go for a bag of popcorn, really. But just thinking about those two guys next to with Pochich in the middle there at the pivot. He's held it down for them, but I think the two things that I'm most intrigued to see with this unit. First and foremost, I think the tackles, like you mentioned, Dewan Jones, be able to have a player like that, especially with Jack Conklin dealing with the injuries that he is dealing with, but also to compounding that with the fact that they paid him all this money and things like that. That can sometimes be a tricky situation. So it's thankfully they've been able to. It looks like been able to get on the other side of that, right? But also too, I think some of the depth. I think thankfully again, like Dewan Jones has been a guy that has been able to step in and should be able to hold down the right tackle spot. if Jack Conklin isn't able to, get 100% healthy and back from those knee injuries. But from there, it's really a lot of unknown. Zach Zinter, third round pick this year, at guard, filling in behind Wyatt Teller. They've got James Hudson, the third, who was a fourth round pick in 2021, as well as Nick Harris. But the guy that I'm really, really going to keep my eyes on is Jedrick Wills. And I want to ask you a little bit about him, Matt, because similarly, when we were talking a little bit about the Bengals, as far as with Amarius Mims, having I'm sorry, not Amarius Mims, Orlando Brown. No, Cody Ford. Sorry, getting all these guys mixed up. Cody Ford,
They're all
right?
pretty
Similar
actually.
to Jedrick Wills.
Yeah.
For sure. So Jedrick Wills, I was a huge fan of him coming out of Alabama. I remember, them calling him the dancing bear and, him just being really an athletic, physically gifted guy, but a guy that really was trying to bring it in the run game. Was an unbelievable pass blocker and everything like that. But things just have not necessarily panned out to that extent, over the last few years. I think he's had, the first couple seasons of his career were some of the better years of his career. The play hasn't been up to snuff on that level as of late. So just your thoughts on Jedrick Wills and, just some of the other thoughts you may have about that unit as a whole.
Absolutely. So I will tell you a little story. In the rankings, I don't give out rookie grades until I get pro film. So if you're a first rounder, you get a B. And if you're a second rounder, you get a C plus. And if you're any other round, you get a C. And until I see the film or something. Okay. And I just think that's fair because whatever you did in college or preseason, that's not real. Jedrick Wills, he got his B and he kept his B like forever. He never got any better and he never got any worse. And I kept looking for film because it was getting ridiculous. It's 3 years from now and he's still a B. And I'm like, what do you, are you being lazy about this, Matt? Like get on your horse. And I was looking at film and he does a above average job most of the time, but he's not a pro bowler or an all pro and he's not a game changer. Now, that type of play has value in the league. Guys like Donovan Smith and guys like at the low end and guys like Colton Miller at the high end or guys like McGlinchey. You need those guys. Spencer Brown is kind of an example of this where it's like mostly good. He's not ever going to be great, but he's not going to get you killed. So I think Wills is going to do that job for them until they sort of upgrade on him. And it would take a very big pick to do that probably. But he is what he is. He's not really developing into the dominator. And I was thinking more along the lines of the 5-star athlete that's at Alabama, the J.C. Lathams, the kind of Evan Neals, that sort of experience. We could go in that direction. But he's like a good player, and you need good players. And you can't have 5. No line has 5 Joel Bitonios and 5 Wyatt Tellers across the board. Some guys are better than others, and you hope that your weak link, your Cordell Volsons or whatever, don't hurt you that bad. Your Daniel Falele doesn't hurt you that bad in pass protection. But when it comes to the Browns, I really like the drive they get on the inside. But it's been a weird offseason for them. Luke Weipler broke his ankle. They had to trade for Nick Harris to get him back from Seattle. It's just like the omens are kind of weird around that group, and we'll see how it plays out. But they're definitely super strong at the guard spots, and kind of drives their success, and I also think Jones is another example of DeJuan Jones is another example of that Orlando Brown kind of not getting enough respect because of his size. I think there's an idea that a guy that big is lazy or possibly doesn't care about his nutrition or whatever it is. But there is a definite bias against players like this. And to find a guy like Jones who's got possibly Pro Bowl potential, and you didn't have to spend a top 10 pick on him, or Orlando Brown because you didn't, they fell to the third round on weight concerns or whatever it was. And those teams look smart making that pick, like sometimes football is not that complicated. You know what I mean? And these teams outthink themselves on draft day. And the better teams, like, one more thing, and I'll lay it off, give it back to you. But like, as a Jets fan, we're always like in the tankathon, like, oh, we need that higher pick. We need that higher pick. No, you don't need the higher pick. You can be at 29 or 24 and you can get Tyler Guyton. You don't need to be at 6 or 10. Like, good teams make good picks all over the round and in round 2. And they get Zach Frazier in round 2. They don't have to use a high premium pick to get these guys. And I'm going to show the Tyler Guyton video one more time because I have to show it every episode. This is the block of the summer, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't seen it, just eat it. Just eat it, buddy.
Hold on. I'm gonna play the one drop that you will consistently hear whenever we see a block like that. This is exactly what you hear. Hold on.
I can't wait.
Yep. Nothing but pancakes, baby. Nothing but pancakes. Like IHOP out
here. So
exactly.
we've covered all 4 teams in the AFC North. I think we keep doing this week to week, even though we're not in the preseason. We just keep going through it, and we'll update with weekly news. Do you have any ideas for what division you want to do next?
We might as well stay up north. NFC North next.
NFC North. Just, beautiful.
Yeah, keep the trend
Lions,
going from there.
A lot to talk about the Bears. There's a lot to talk about with the Packers rebuild and the Vikings. Steady Eddie, same group of guys. I love it. All right, so that'll be episode 4. I got to promote 3 articles. Football guys, I've got the most possibly overrated lines, the most possibly underrated lines, and the boom or bust lines, along with the full up-to-date all 32 rankings. We're giving a little bits of it, pieces of it here, but if you want the whole thing, check me out at footballguys.com. Khari, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be doing some pieces with The Athletic this fall. So stay tuned for those. I'll be helping out with some sports betting stories, covering the NFL, and possibly some college football as well. So, but yeah, definitely looking forward to getting those shared. So once those start going live, I will definitely keep you guys in the loop. So be on the lookout. So once again, folks, it's great to have you guys joining us. Really appreciate everybody tuning in as always. Episode 3 in the books. See you guys real soon. You guys know the 90s classic that this song samples, you get extra credit for it, So you guys be well, take care, and talk soon.